Hello, this is Melanie Hines here at Volunteer Canada. Today we're looking forward to sharing some tools and resources that we have developed in partnership with Manulife Financial to help organizations engage today's family volunteers. In terms of the structure of this presentation, it will be divided into 4 parts, and I will begin by introducing the concept of family volunteering, and I will then follow by highlighting some key findings that came out of our Pan-Canadian study, Bridging the Gap, enriching the volunteer experience to build a better future for our communities. I will focus specifically on findings that relate to family volunteers, which was one of our 4 key demographic groups which we explored, and the other groups included youth, baby boomers, and employer-supported volunteers. Information and tools relating to the other cohorts are available at Volunteer Canada's website. In the third part of the presentation, we'll introduce the tools and resources developed for organizations, and we will explore the processes and policies that an organization may wish to consider when determining whether or not to implement family volunteering in their organization. We will then proceed to the introduction of the family volunteering spectrum, which explores potential options and strategies for which to integrate family volunteers. And the fourth part of the presentation will explore some key resources that are available for families interested in incorporating family volunteering into their lifestyle. So we define family volunteering as involving more than one person in a household or extended family from different generations volunteering together. And family here is defined loosely in that it can consist of various arrangements, but it's identified as being comprised of more than one generation. And so families can volunteer together in different compositions, whether it's siblings volunteering together, or parents with their children, or grandparents with their grandchildren. Family volunteering opportunities can be incredibly diverse, and activities can be as varied as serving food at a food bank, dropping off warm clothes during the holiday, reading to senior citizens, planting a community garden, or walking animals at an animal shelter. In terms of the tools and resources that we've developed, for organizations, we started off with an organizational assessment. And this worksheet helps to identify if and how a family volunteering initiative would fit into an organization's mission. The program checklist identifies the varying components that need to be in place to ensure that an organization is ready to implement a family volunteering initiative. The Next Steps workbook provides an opportunity for organizations to list and identify the possible components of their current program that may need to be adjusted in order to be more family-friendly. And the family volunteering spectrum serves to showcase the different options and opportunities for engaging family volunteers. The interactive features enable organizations to link to sections with helpful suggestions and ideas. The family volunteering assignment can be used to establish a formal volunteer agreement between your organization and a potential family. It can also be used to inform the design of a recruitment poster for families in your community. And finally, we end off with some tools and resources around family volunteer management policies that may be useful for organizations. And for the family volunteering tools that are designed specifically for families, the package highlights the concept of family volunteering, and it provides examples of activities and special considerations for families. And each section links to a variety of resources for reference to interested or prospective family volunteers. And so for the background research, in a previous study around family volunteering by Volunteer Canada, there were a number of focus groups that were conducted across Canada. And participants discussed the benefits of family volunteering for organizations. One participant noted, family volunteering has the potential to greatly enhance the volunteer pool. Instead of getting one volunteer, the organization gets several volunteers. This increases the reliability because volunteers will share the load, and when one can't show up, another family member will come in their place. Another participant indicated that family volunteering helps to add new skill sets to the pool. When family members of different ages volunteer, they bring different skills based on interests and also age. So family volunteering provides diversity that would otherwise be difficult for an organization to capture. Not only can family volunteering benefit an organization through a multiplier effect of increasing the quantity of volunteers, but it can serve to benefit an organization by introducing unique generational skills and perspectives. In our recent Pan-Canadian study from Bridging the Gap, we met with a number of family volunteers who cited a series of barriers to family volunteering that they had encountered. One was lack of time. 2 was inappropriate volunteer activities for children due to client confidentiality or sensitivity issues. So many parents feel hesitant about exposing very young children to particular situations, as not all volunteer activities are well suited for children. There was concern around the need for adequate supervision of children. Opportunities that incorporate childcare with volunteer time are highly valued. By offering or providing childcare, it's possible to attract families that otherwise couldn't volunteer. And this was cited as a significant opportunity that hasn't been effectively leveraged, whether it's providing activities for very young children or providing supervision while older family members volunteer. Both of these would really assist families in being able to volunteer. There was a lack of awareness of volunteer activities that may be appropriate for the inclusion of children. So often, there are tasks that can be appropriate for children. It just sometimes takes time to identify the opportunities available at your organization for different age ranges. There was also concern that organizations don't make enough of an effort to get to know family members in order to match them with appropriate activities. One of the most frequent comments made by volunteers was the importance that resides in taking time to know them. By hearing about their interests, their likes and dislikes, it becomes easier to match them accordingly. And in the long run, this also serves to improve retention levels. Now, organizations express common challenges relating to family volunteering as well. Organizations cited a lack of tools, training, and strategies in place to engage different demographics and cohorts of volunteers. And organizations specifically identified a lack of capacity to involve groups. And so the supervision and support of groups of volunteers or family volunteers can add additional challenges to the human resources of an organization. Our research also pointed to some key characteristics of today's family volunteers. For one, they have busy schedules. It's challenging to find enough time to juggle the schedules around babies, young children, teens, and ever increasingly aging parents. Family cohesion. There's a perception that volunteering together provides a thread to connect various members of a family. Generational differences. Organizations need to recognize and handle the range of family members differently and passing on values. Parents often look for ways to engage their teenage children in volunteering in order to instill values, to shift attitudes of entitlement, and to boost social awareness. So now I'll take us to some of the resources that have been developed specifically for organizations. Now here are the contents of these tools and resources, and there are different tools and resources on each block. And we acknowledge that there is a great diversity of organizations, and organizations may be at a different stage of implementing or incorporating family volunteers. Whether or not an organization is starting off and is just thinking about introducing family volunteers, or whether an organization has a current program but is looking to further strengthen it. So depending on where an organization is at, they may choose to select different resources. And you can click here. It'll direct you to the resources themselves. So we'll start off with the organizational assessment. There are a few questions that are useful to ask right off the bat. What are your organization's existing practices, and can they be adapted to incorporate family volunteers? For one, it's useful to explore an organization's current policies to see if they can be adapted so as to include family volunteers. Implementing a family volunteering program usually doesn't require a complete overhaul of current volunteer management practices. It can simply mean incorporating more family-friendly options than what you may currently offer. And so how does family volunteer involvement help to achieve an organization's mission? This is another question that's useful to ask. Above all, it's important that family volunteerism stays consistent with an organization's mission and isn't incorporated haphazardly. So you'll want to think about whether a family volunteering initiative will support the vision and direction of your organization. Then we have the program checklist. And so this takes you through categories of program and policy considerations that relate specifically to engaging family volunteers. Here you'll find useful information or tips relating to particular categories. And there's also room to take notes based on the information that has been provided. You can capture how it might relate to your organization's current policies. So it looks at volunteer activities, preparing for family volunteers, looks at volunteer recognition, recognizing family volunteers, scheduling, helping to create effective and flexible arrangements and accommodation, and then volunteer resource management, policies and practices for effective family engagement. And with each of these items, you can identify whether or not you currently have the policies or practices in place or not. And if there is a topic that you are interested in looking into further and researching a little bit more, or areas that you're not very familiar with, you can click on this icon. And each of these questions have an icon, and it'll take you to a resource that will provide more information. So for instance, here it says, do you have current programs that can be made family-friendly? This is the fourth item. And you can click on the resource, and here you will find, it'll take you to a document which highlights family volunteering. And it looks at opening the organization to family volunteers. And so you can look at page 13 and identify some of these items to then help you further develop your program so as to make sure that it is more family-friendly. And based on the research that you may do, you can take notes and let that guide the next steps. Here's the Next Steps workbook. You can refer to the questions outlined in the program checklist and study the resources provided to identify which program areas require changes and/or further development. So you could fill out this workbook as necessary, and the more detailed the analysis, the easier it will be to plan out the next steps. And with this entire document, you can type it in, you can fill in the boxes, and you can save all items and print them out. So it is a working document. So it goes through volunteer activities, volunteer recognition, scheduling, volunteer resource management. And now we'll proceed to the family volunteering spectrum. The spectrum highlights different methods or strategies for organizations to engage family volunteers. And each box links to an information package with practices and opportunities for implementing an effective family volunteer initiative. And so the different categories are volunteer activities. And so these relate to different ways to structure tasks and activities with families in mind. There's volunteer recognition, and these highlight creative ways in which families can be both recognized and supported by an organization. Scheduling. This area of managing family volunteers is especially critical as providing flexible options for families is a very significant factor in a family's ability to volunteer. And then there's volunteer resource management. And this relates to ways an organization may choose to evaluate their family volunteering initiatives, and it provides feedback or decision-making opportunities to family volunteers that can be considered by organizations. Each of these categories has a list of options and varying degrees of engagement. And so the options that an organization may select would depend on the size of the organization, the budget they have available for their volunteer program. So for example, if you're a smaller organization, you may not have the staff available to offer childcare on site while teenagers and parents volunteer. So in the volunteer activities spectrum here, the first option is offering childcare to enable family members to volunteer. Well, if you don't have the resources to be able to offer childcare, then you may want to explore an option further down on the spectrum, which would include pairing parents with younger children and toddlers so that they're able to provide the supervision that an organization may not be able to provide. Or if you have a limited budget, there may be limitations as to what kind of volunteer recognition and support you can offer. For instance, you may not be able to provide bus fare or meals and snacks for your volunteers. So you may look to more creative ways of providing awards and appreciation. And so let us explore this option. Here it'll take you to this information package that talks about recognizing the family unit, recognizing youth or children in the family, as well as different ways to provide gifts, certificates, vouchers. So there's different options for providing appreciation or recognition to your family and saying thank you. And when you want to go back to the spectrum and look at the other options or the other categories, you can just click here and it'll return you. So let's proceed to designing a family volunteer assignment. Excellent. Okay, so this template can be used by organizations to assist with designing a clear assignment. So what you will be doing is, having gone through the various components, you can now incorporate some of these ideas, some of these options to develop it's almost like a position description. However, this assignment can also be used to inform the design of a recruitment poster for families in your communities. So it goes through volunteer activities, the role of the project and the overview, key responsibilities, key requirements. And then it also goes through recognition, scheduling options, and volunteer resource management. And so you can go through here and having thought about designing a program with family-friendly options, you now design and create a position that will then be posted in your community if you so desire. And the Family Volunteering Resource List provides links to a variety of volunteer management resources, tools, policies, considerations around incorporating family volunteers into your organization. And so you can click any of these and it'll take you directly to the resource. And you'll see on here the first resource is Building Blocks for Family Volunteering, Key Resources for Families. And so this is the document that's designed specifically for families, which is what I will now take you to. And here we have Building Blocks for Family Volunteering, Key Resources for Families. You'll find 4 different areas in which a family may wish to inquire. What is family volunteering? What kind of world do you want? What do you like to do? And making it work for you. So we'll begin with what is family volunteering. A common concern around family volunteering is that with so many varying commitments, a busy family cannot find time to volunteer together. However, contrary to this perspective, volunteering can be a very flexible activity, and there are many opportunities to volunteer in a way that's convenient for a family schedule. Some of those opportunities are described in the Family Volunteer Spectrum, which we had just explored. By clicking on the spectrum options under scheduling, you'll find a variety of ways to design a position which will be a little bit more accommodating and friendly to a family schedule. And here you'll find a variety of web resources and books to describe how to talk to your kids about volunteering and to discuss what family volunteering is. What kind of world do you want? When thinking about introducing family volunteering in your family, one of the first steps is to identify what kind of issues interest or concern your family. Thinking about the topics and areas that you feel passionate about, whether it's homelessness, environment, seniors, or whichever issue area, this can help propel a family into volunteering. So these resources will take families into documents and to options which list issue areas that families may be interested in exploring. What do you like to do? Finding activities that are right for everyone. Well, the next step is to narrow the issue area that you're passionate about as a family to an activity, a task, or a series of activities which you could become involved with. This could be as varied as walking dogs, playing cards, gardening, baking. The options are limitless. And finally, making it work for you. This section describes useful tips for families considering volunteering. There are a number of areas that are described with suggestions for families who may wish to inquire further with an organization. Activity ideas highlight different volunteer arrangements that can be established between families. And then the volunteer management policies here introduce key topics that families may wish to consider when volunteering, and also the types of policies that may be important to family volunteers. So organizations can use the document and these tools and resources as a reference to help them build family volunteering initiative that is flexible and accommodating for families, so acknowledging the many commitments that families have, a family volunteering initiative that's respectful and understanding to difference, including age, gender, culture, language, An initiative that's meaningful and engaging, ensuring that the individual needs and talents of each family member is recognized, and that roles and tasks are suitable for a variety of ages and skill sets. And families can use the tools and resources to explore various ideas and options for incorporating family volunteering into their schedule. References to books and web resources provide accessible information for prospective volunteers seeking to learn more. So we really encourage you to check these tools and resources out. So there are a number of people that I would like to thank for the development of these tools and resources, including Paula Spivak-Sklodowski, the Director of Applied Research and Public Policy at Volunteer Canada, Ruth McKenzie, President and CEO of Volunteer Canada, Janet Burstall, Manager of Community Development at Volunteer Calgary, Jacinda Rudolph, Coordinator of Community Connections Program at the Immigrant Settlement and Integration Services, and finally our corporate partner, Manulife Financial. In order to access these tools and resources, you can find them at www.getvolunteering.ca/tools. You can visit www.getinvolved.ca to post or search for group volunteering opportunities in your community. I'd like to thank you very much for listening to this presentation, and I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you.